Hey everyone, my name is Ross Leclerc. I'm a producer at the Joyce Theater in New York City. Thank you all very much for joining us today for this Mason Arts at Home conversation with the creative team behind Swing 2020. Before we get started, I just want to say I'm sure if you're watching this that you are a lover of dance and or the performing arts, and I know we can't be enjoying that in the way we normally would like to, so it's really nice to have you all here and still participating in this community in a new way. So wherever you are watching, I hope you're safe and healthy. And again, thanks for being here with us. So today we're going to be talking about a new show called Swing 2020. It's produced by the Joyce Theater. And I'm actually not going to tell you too much about it because you'll be hearing from all the great artists soon. So first, I want to bring in Caleb Teicher. Caleb is the director of Swing 2020. If you know the Joyce Theater at all, you've seen his company perform, you know, he's danced with Michelle Dorrance and so many others. So Caleb, thank you very much for being here. Next, I want to introduce Eyal Vilner. Eyal is the musical brain of this show. He runs the Eyal Vilner Big Band based in New York City, but I will mention that right now you are in Paris. So thank you very much for staying up late with us tonight. We appreciate it. So the next three we have are what we've called the Brain Trust for Swing 2020. So these are Caleb's closest collaborators, working with him on everything from casting, choreography, everything in between. So first I want to bring in Evita Arce. She's a wonderful dancer, teacher, performer. And I'll also point out Evita is featured in a documentary on Netflix called Alive and Kicking. And actually that documentary is one of the first conversation points when the Joyce and Caleb started this project together. So if you're looking for more after this, you can check that out. Next, I want to bring in Latasha Barnes. Latasha, again, an amazing Lindy Hop and swing dancer, but also a house dancer, hip hop, everything in between. If you ever get a chance to sit down with Latasha and just hear some stories about the many masters that she's learned from in her very interesting life, I recommend you take that opportunity for a conversation. And finally, Nathan Bew to round us out. Nathan is, again, like everyone else here, a wonderful Lindy Hop and solo jazz dancer, performer, champion, teacher, everything in between. So yeah, so yeah, that's it. Here's the panel. Thanks all so much for being here. You look wonderful. We can do our Brady Bunch hello and wave, see each other. So I know we're going to start with, we're going to share a video so people watching can see a little bit about what the show will actually look like. But first, I think, Caleb, if you could just give us sort of the elevator pitch of what Swing 2020 is. I really gave very little background in my introduction. So just set the scene for us, what the show is.
Totally. Hi, people of the internet. Really excited to talk about Swing 2020. Swing 2020 is at its numbers is a 12-person dance show featuring and honoring and reaffirming the beautiful art form of Lindy Hop, vernacular jazz, movement to jazz music, with the accompaniment of Eyal Vilner Big Band, a 10-piece big band. I think everyone on the Brain Trust would agree that I think we were most interested in presenting Lindy Hop at its highest power, right? In a scenario where it seems like it's being seen at its best. Sometimes swing dance productions seem glitzy, sterilized, a acrobatic version of something, and that is not Lindy Hop at its highest power. Lindy Hop at its highest power is a social dance community full of character and musicality, improvisation. And so we are trying to make essentially a staged manifestation of the social dance community of Lindy Hop at its best. And so we have recruited an incredible big band and an incredible composer who also leads that big band to write new music and new arrangements for old music. And we've collected a cast of 12 of the best swing dancers around. And I think that's the elevator would have opened by then. So
perfect. Okay, so we have a clip. This is a piece called The Rabbit. And I think starting with this, everyone watching, you'll get a great sense of what the show will be in a smaller setting. So take a look. I've seen it so many times, and it makes me smile every single time. I want to point out that that video was taken during a Works in Process performance at the Guggenheim Museum in New York earlier this year. So thank you to the Guggenheim for that. So we're seeing that Swing 2020 is bringing Lindy Hop into the proscenium space. But Caleb, in your intro, you talked so much about the community and the social dance of swing. So I'm curious if any of you can really share with us, where is swing dance happening now, in competitions and clubs? Where is it happening?
All over the world. I mean, everywhere. I think one of the surprising and really exciting facts is that I believe Seoul, Korea has the largest population or community of social dancers, with the most number of swing studios and classes. And truly anywhere that you travel in the world, you can find a little community of swing dancers. So that it's pretty amazing.
And can you also explain a little bit the difference between the social nights out at a jam versus the competition setting that I know you all live in so many different worlds within Lindy Hop?
Well, I'll begin by saying that I think the social dancing is, I think, in my opinion, and I think all of our opinions, it's where the heart and the soul of it is. You know, competition is a really exciting realm where, you know, people create incredible choreographies and they do really great stunts and aerials, and they usually dance fast, and it's exciting. And it does elevate the caliber or the athleticism, but parties, festivals, late nights with live musicians, social dancing, that's where people exercise their skill in improvisation and really the art form of lead and following and communicating and playing. And they're both really exciting worlds, but this show wants to hone in on the magic that happens in the social dance realm.
Awesome. Nathan, did you unmute? Do you want to add?
I just think that Lindy Hop has a kind of a wrestling match with itself in its contest form, and you know there's a confusion about the dance in that it's an old dance in some way, and the dance is like from 1928-29 Savoy Ballroom in Harlem, New York, in the African American community of that ballroom. That's the dance, but at the same time, it never stopped, and the swing music hasn't been supplanted by some other kind of swing music. Like, swing music is still swing music, and the dance still goes with swing music. So there's this social dance reality, and it is what it is, and so the reason I bring that up is because in that context, you know, it can be about innovation. It's not about a form that people have decided. I mean, who has any right to decide what it is and what it isn't? It's just swing music, and people dance to swing music, and so anything goes in that sense. But then the competition scene, it kind of takes its model from dances that had a bit more codification already when the contest environment was formed. It's not necessarily, they're not always the most traditional type of contest. Sometimes they are, sometimes they aren't. And so it's a garment that's not always cut to fit. Sometimes you have a contest that reflects the spirit of the dance in the sense that, oh, the audience is just going to cheer for whoever wows them or something. You know, this I think is hard to argue with. Now, then other times the contest is extremely rigorous. Like, you've got a set of judges and they have a score sheet with the indicators and like a bunch of categories, and they have to give points for each one. I mean, I've been in that situation. That's not super common, and most people try to strike a balance. So I just bring that up to say the relationship of the dance, the person, our beloved friend, the dance, and the contest world is tenuous.
Mm-hmm. I think it's so important and amazing that we have Eyal with us tonight, because he actually was one of the first people when Caleb and I started building this. He said, you know, I need Eyal in on this show. And the relationship between the music and the dance that you're building together is just built into the fabric of the show. And I even know that sometimes dancers have been in the recording studio with you. So I would love for Eyal and anyone else to share, what has that relationship been like, and how does that reflect in the show?
Sure, I'll go. Who, me? Well, I came into this world from the music side is a musician who's, you know, this is what I've been doing for most, if not all, of my adult life, at least. And I got into you know, into the whole swing dancing scene because I was interested in feeling how it is to be on the other side and to see you know, what it would do to my music, both as a composer, arranger, and as a player. And I think that this I'm super grateful for this opportunity, because this show allows me to sort of showcase my take or my feeling about how the music and the dance develop and can influence and inspire one another. You know, and it's a pleasure to work with all of these amazing dancers and choreographers, because it really allows a conversation to happen, both when it's improvised or, you know, on the earlier side when it's when, you know, when we're thinking about some choreography and some music writing.
I just want to add that I've worked with a number of composers now, but Eyal is the first composer I've worked with who also does the dance that he's writing for. And
to a certain degree.
Yeah, he's quite good. But when I went to Eyal's gigs, you know, in between bands, on a band's break, Eyal would get out and dance to the DJ'd set. He also would come to swing dance class, and he also, as we got into the collaborative process, he really wants to understand. It's actually talk about like tedious or laborious work. Eyal wants to learn the choreography, not so that he can match it note for note. That's kind of uninteresting in many ways, but so that he can be more present, more aware, and so he can think about how to further understand and contribute to the conversation that we're trying to have. And yes, I've both. I guess the past two recording sessions that Eyal's had with his big bands have featured dancers either in the recording for I tap danced on a recent recording, but also to give sort of let's call it like spiritual feedback, in the sense of the dancers are in the other room saying, "Oh, the tempo is a little bright here. It could be relaxed a bit," or I feel like it, you know, the arrangement could benefit from this. And you know, the majority of dancers are not trying to speak as musicians. We're just trying to speak as people who interact with music in a very particular way. And the fact that Eyal has facilitated the type of creative process where he can really receive that makes him unique and just really good to work with.
Thank you. But answering your question about the recording session, really what Caleb was talking about, you know, some of it was when we recorded music that is meant for dancing, or that the dance is an important part of it, you know, then the feedback of, wait, you know, it might, you know, be a little slow or a little fast. It's one thing, but you know, like you said, the spiritual or the energy connection, you know, we actually had some of the dancers with us in the same room. Quite a few of you, all of you guys have been there pretty much, along with some other friends. But really, it's, you know, a lot of times being in a studio in general is a weird situation. It's not natural for most of us. You know, it's morning, it's early, it's quiet, it's you know, it's just like, you know, trying to like, you know, produce something when you imagine the show that you had last night. And we did have a show the night before that, but I said, like, why don't we just like continue the show to the, you know, while we're recording it. So, you know, more than just the album itself, the idea of really integrating and really having the dance in mind to complement and to inspire the music and vice versa is just like, I think it's interesting and fun and the way it naturally should be.
Mm-hmm. I want to point out one thing actually for everyone watching, just so you know, there will be a chance at the end for you all to write in some questions. So as you're listening to us, just be thinking about things you might want to hear towards the end. Right there in the title of the show, Swing 2020, it's clear that this is a very contemporary take on what swing is, and we've already touched on this a bit. And what's always been super interesting to me hearing from all of you is the way that is reflected in your community through consent, same-sex partnering, who's leading, who's following. And while that seems very contemporary to us, I also, Nathan, you've shared that some of those values have been part of swing dance way back, that it's actually not this revolutionary 2020 thing for you all. So I would love maybe, Nathan, for you to start telling us a bit about where those values come from, and then also how they're reflected in the show. I think it's really interesting to share.
Yeah, well, I mean, the first thing I would say is it doesn't have to be put on a pedestal. I mean, the dance is just a dance of daily life, and as long as swing music's happening and people want to dance to it, it's happening, and whatever values those people have are the values that it has. So we need to kind of start by acknowledging that. But in any effort to directly represent a diversity of value and culture in a show is just an effort to welcome anyone who wants to have that kind of magical experience of the stage through viewing and experience vicariously. So, you know, while we as a creative team on the show may make a direct effort, as you're alluding to, the dance doesn't necessarily need us to make that effort. The dance is just free and available. And to speak to the other issue, I mean, look, the culture of the dance community that was innovating the style that they gave the name Lindy Hop, or used the name Lindy Hop for, that culture, it was what it was, and it was historical. And there's lots of things about the past that we feel we've grown beyond, and there's lots of things about the past that we look back on and like. And that's just the way it is with every discipline. It's not just for our dance. So, but whether the dance had a special openness, I mean, I'd like to think it did. There was the Savoy Ballroom, when it comes to like cultural availability, had the same problems as every like major venue in 1929, but it also was an integrated ballroom, and it had men that danced with men. Sometimes it was a joke, but sometimes, like, there's a scene of some documentary footage, two boys dancing together and they're just showing off as women dancing with women. Sugar Sullivan said she practiced with a woman, although they didn't perform together. To my knowledge, but and I mean that in the sense of partner dancing, lead follow partner dancing, and Al and Leon performed together. Al Minns, Leon James, that is, performed together for years. So when it comes to like some of the issues you're alluding to, which I'm kind of introducing as I say it offhandedly, like switching the gender assignments on the roles, and you know, this stuff is not so revolutionary. I think the problem is that when we look back on the past, we kind of compact it, and for people for whom like social partner dance is not a living dance, they're not looking at the reality of it, like the sense in which like a father and son would practice together or something like this, you know, or a mother and daughter might practice a dance together. They're not looking at it. A lot of these people aren't looking at it as a dance in the life. They're kind of looking at it more like as an instructional book that Arthur Murray's, you know, made up or something. And so that's where you get the idea of like, oh, well, the man is this and the woman is that, and the dance has a way that it goes, and it's got to be that way. So I think, you know, we're not necessarily trying to be revolutionary. We're just trying to represent the dance as a part of our life.
Yeah, and I guess to add to that, as someone who's not so in that community with you, I do think it's important. It might not feel revolutionary to you, but for people who may not know all that work and that history that you're doing, it actually does sometimes feel revolutionary from this side of it. So that's always been really interesting to me.
And one of the other things that we wanted to do with it too is to make sure that that message is received. Like, this has always been a part of this fabric. We're just really trying to make sure that people know that this was also a part of their lived experiences as well. And they carried that into the ballroom and danced and celebrated that then. And it was always about a balancing of the energies and sharing your stories with each other. And we want to make sure that that comes across as well.
Yeah. So we have another clip we're going to share, but I would love if Avita, actually, if you could help set this up. What we showed so far didn't show as much of the big jumping and flipping and throwing that some people associate with swing. The clip we are about to see does highlight more of that. So Avita, can you share, I don't know, maybe some of the mechanisms that go into that, and how do flips fit into Lindy Hop?
I would love to, Ross. Actually, Nathan and I go back as friends many, many, many years. And we used to have this little argument about whether or not Lindy Hop required aerials to be considered Lindy Hop. And I was of this very, in hindsight, I'm going to call myself immature and, very stubborn mindset of, oh my gosh, no, if you're hired for Lindy Hop and you're supposed to perform it, people expect you to do the flips and throw your partner around. And I think a lot of people associate that with swing dancing. And Nathan, and of course I'm sure others, were like, no, you don't. You don't have to do that at all. Anyways, I think that the dance, it wants to have both. And the aerials and the kind of acrobatics that people think of in the iconic way literally come out of the partner connection, which is a really powerful force that takes a lot of training and a long time to develop and a lot of practice. But then it also comes out of the sheer excitement and joy that the dance, infuses you with. So to set up this clip, at the moment, we're thinking that this is going to be the last show. The last piece in the show. Maybe we'll see if we change that. And it's to the really classic song, Jumpin' at the Woodside. I think it's Count Basie's version that we use in this clip. And it's just a slamming song that gets most swing dancers and Lindy Hoppers really excited. And it's a definitely up-tempo, faster-paced song. And we're demonstrating a jam circle in it, which is where, the community or the family is kind of, at the actual dance floor, we'd probably be in a complete circle, but on the stage, we're in a half circle, and we're giving each other energy and excitement and love and support and cheering each other on as each couple kind of goes in and throws down their best stuff. So what you're going to see in this clip is mixing and matching of partnerships, as well as just different people going in there and exploding with kind of their fancy. It's not to show off; it's to give. And Latasha, oh my goodness, Latasha has this incredible masterclass that she teaches on jam circles, which come from the cipher, which come from even religious circular, ceremonies. Latasha could probably speak more to this, but the most important takeaway is that we are encouraging, sharing, and supporting each other in this sacred circle. So that's what you're going to see in this clip.
All right. Hit it. Amazing. Amazing. I could watch that forever.
Oh,
I'm just,
my
I'm remembering a small anecdote of that performance. That performance was at the Guggenheim Museum in Bilbao, Spain, and it was our first evening. And we were nervous about not being able to hear the recording of the music over our own screaming and yelling, and then the audience screaming and yelling. But beyond that confusion, the audiences in Spain that evening really wanted to clap on 1 and 3. And we wanted them to clap on 2 and 4. And it's not that they didn't understand where the music was. They just thought that clapping on 1 and 3 was what you did to music. And it was freaking us out. And it was just wild. And I also actually want to add that, going back to that conversation about competition or competitiveness, there's this particular brand of competition, which I believe is best referred to as one-upmanship, that exists in the jam circle setting, that exists in Lindy Hop. You are competing not for any prize, not to win. You're just competing to compete. You're playing the game to play the game, and that I think exists within social dance and within jam circles and within performance as well. I should say those duets, for the most part, were crafted individually. So I think it was maybe earlier that day or maybe the night before that we actually saw all the different elements of what was being done in that jam circle. And it's quite fun to sort of work on something with a partner and then reveal it to the group and see their reaction. And then you get to do that fresh each night with an audience.
Yeah, and that sort of goes to why I was asking earlier about where swing happens and the competition versus the social, because I know you're all putting all of those elements into the show. There's the one-upmanship is in there, the drawing a random partner and having improv together is in there. Like, all these different ways that Lindy Hop exists in the world are all reflected in this show, which I think is so fascinating. I want to touch on one thing from that video, which is, as an outsider, I have to assume that the throws and the lifts and all that are pretty well choreographed, and there's so much trust there. But at the same time, I know that there is so much improv and what you call improvography in the show. So how do you balance the things that need to be choreographed with the essence of improv? That's for anyone.
Wow, that actually, that's a great question. And it honestly, in the process of developing the show, has varied from song to song, like piece to piece, as well as from show to show, because there's been some instances particularly in Bilbao, for example, where we performed the luck of the draw for rehearsals and then for the actual show, and the same person was drawn every single time. And we had to make some adjustments in the order of some people's movement or sharings, just to make sure that they weren't overworked in any particular fashions. So that required a bit sometimes of restructuring some of the improvography to make sure that they possibly weren't overloaded. The best, I think, for me personally, was absolutely for Jumping at the Woodside. And it seemed really beautiful that everyone kind of gravitated towards a particular section of the song. And by checking in with everyone and everyone sharing just what they had been working on, we were able to actually kind of structure our improved aerials in the moments of private practice into this beautiful amalgam of explosiveness at this particular part of the show. But definitely, I think one of our bigger points was to kind of honor a bit of the way that the modern scene kind of functions, and put the big bang at the end of the show, and just really kind of let people go home with this really swelling of abundance of all of our lived experiences come together at once and combusting into this joyous explosion of aerials and rhythm, as Vita and Nathan so beautifully put it. So yeah, I hope that answered it a little bit.
Yeah. I do want to get to
Lindy Hop.
Go ahead.
I was just saying, Lindy Hop is the thing with the aerials in the show too, just as much as it is the improvised thing. I mean, we got 100 years of history of an art form at this point, and it is all the things it's always been. And like when James Blue Outlaw and Jessica Samuels are doing their act, they're doing their act. like in Boy What a Girl. It's the same tricks that they do when they're on the television talk show. And so it's perfectly at home, this sort of like, well, when it's a show, we do our thing. And then at the same time, you just turn around and improvise a whole number. Makes total sense.
Mm-hmm. So I want to get to some questions that are coming in the comments, but first I know you all want to share with us a little bit about the cast who you put together, those best in the world 12 dancers in the show. So Caleb, do you want to take it?
Sorry, I didn't even realize there were comments. I'm scrolling through. I see Remy Kwame on there. Hey, Remy, you're still awake in France. Yeah, I would say I'd like the staffing of any great jazz bands or any show. Casting is of the utmost importance. We're not just looking for people who can dance the role. We're looking for people who are going to contribute to the richness of the world that we're creating. And that has to do with, of course, what skills or abilities they bring to the table, but it also has to do with their personalities and their perspective on the dance. And actually, a cast of 12 is the biggest cast that I've had the privilege of assembling for a show that I've worked on. But in many ways, kind of like the bigger, the better. With Lindy Hop, because the more people you see do the dance, the more understanding you have of just what the dance could be. The possibilities are sort of endless, and everyone has their own perspective on the dance. Yada, yada, yada. All that to say, we really were trying to really get a slice of many different Lindy Hop lives in one space. We weren't looking for people who approach Lindy Hop in a similar way. We're not looking for uniformity. We're not even looking for agreements. In fact, I think if there's discourse, it makes the conversation about Lindy Hop on the stage that much richer. I believe we have a cute little graphic of our cast. I suppose I can. Does anyone want to just run down all the people that we're looking at here?
Sure. And you're actually going to notice that there's some more people because we've also included Brian Lawton and Macy Sullivan. They'll be understudying the show, but then Macy is also going to be assistant director to Caleb, kind of editing things. But if we go then moving down, there's Nathan Bew. Next to him is D. Daniels Locke. Going across, that's Gabby Cook. Of course, Eyal Vilner on saxophone there. We have Mikey Pedroza. Then going up, that's me. Then we have next to me, Remy Kwame. Then we have Jennifer Jones. We have Michael Jagger. Above Michael, we have Latasha Barnes. Next to her, we have Ramona Staffeld. Then we have Joshua McLean. And of course, Caleb Teicher.
So I'm going to go real quickly left to right here. From the top row, we got Caleb Teicher, Josh McLean, Ramona Stafford, Latasha Barnes, and Brian Lawton. And left to right in that middle row, Evita Arce, Remy Kwame, Jennifer Jones, Michael Jagger, and Macy Sullivan. And then that bottom row is Mikey Pedrosa and Eyal Vilner, Gabby Cook, D. Daniels Locke, and Nathan Bew.
Awesome. We can't wait to see them on the stage. So I think with that, we'll start taking some questions that are coming in from the chat. And I think the first question we have up is from Sharon Chin. I think actually just focusing on the first question here, what extent can we expect a connected narrative arc for the show? Or should we expect more individual dance vignettes? And I also want to touch on something that will happen sort of post-show, but also part of the show that we haven't really talked about yet. So if someone wants to take it away.
I can give this a go. A great question about narrative arc in dance pieces in general. I think I won't have the most clear answer. I think if you're looking for a clear answer, the clear answer is no. There is no narrative, but there is an arc. But the arc is not an arc; it's a wave, like the arc of the arc of justice in history is a wave, not an arc. I think the narrative is the dance, and to supplant a narrative with kind of archetypes or protagonists and antagonists and forces of evil and the sort of things that you learned in English class that make up particular storytelling styles, takes away from the sort of subtlety and personality and kind of tone that you get from not having some greater force that you're battling the entire time. So I guess in essence, you will certainly get a lot of character and you will certainly get a lot of story, but I don't think there's a tidy conclusion. That's me answering the first half of that question. Does anyone want to tackle the second half or add on to what I just said?
I just want to say briefly on the first half of the question that, yeah, there's not really a narrative, and I think that's the right idea here. It's just like, it's a jazz dance, it's a dance style, and it deserves a showcase. And to add on a narrative would, in a way, make the dance subservient to some other purpose, which would defeat the vision of the show that the Joyce had in the first place, which is to portray the dance itself and the energy of the dance itself.
In terms of the second half of the question, I'll start it off and then maybe kick it to Tasha or Evita or Eyal, who's really geographically distanced right now. The goal of bringing a cast from everywhere for the premiere was to acknowledge how Lindy Hop is coming from everywhere. Of course, it started in Harlem, in New York, and 3 of the 6 of us in this window do live in Harlem. But a lot of the people who love and care for Lindy Hop are all over the world. And I think we were trying to honor the kind of global, local community of Lindy Hop by that. In terms of how it's changed our creative process, I think we're super lucky that a lot of the show is locked and loaded. We did a lot of our work in advance. We really, I'm a precrastinator. I've learned this term, meaning that I do a lot of work in advance so that I have a lot of time to think about it. And really, we're in, luckily, an excellent part of our creative process where we feel very good about a majority of the work that's prepped. And now we're kind of waiting for the appropriate scenario in which we can stage and bring the presence to the piece.
I had
Cool. I want to.
Can I
Go
add
ahead.
something?
Yeah.
Whoa. I had I mean, we have started. Yeah, right. I got excited, but a lot of it was already in the works for some time. But like the final stages for me so far has been interesting because I am in Paris now for this year, but I've been going back and forth. So whenever I was visiting New York, we would get together either for a long coffee conversations, or I would actually attend some dance rehearsals, and we would sort of work some ideas together. But I had some very interesting sessions where I'm looking at a video of a choreography and trying to transcribe what's happening there, and to put it into music, and then put some music, that converse with it, or some of the work has been via internet, videos and stuff like that, which has been interesting.
There's been a few questions from Nick, from Derek, about how everything going on, COVID and the global pandemic, have impacted the show. And one thing I think is super interesting, Caleb, you shared with me how some places in, I think it was a specific place in Korea, was adjusting to the news and really sort of like leading the community in a super interesting way about how to come back together. So while that hasn't actually come into this show yet, and we're obviously looking at timelines and when it will be safe to bring this show to all of you, I would love if you could share a little bit of that story with everyone. I think it's so cool.
Totally. Well, I think this has to do with the dance is what the dance is. It's about physical contact. It's about proximity. It's about connection. And those are things that we are, for public health reasons, not encouraged to do right now. And we are all in support of public health. And I think we are, of course, I think the most intelligent response is to wait until it's truly safe to do so. And I think beyond that, we're trying to understand what it'll be like to return to physically active spaces that require interaction with other bodies. Of course, there's lots of dancing going on in people's living rooms, but Lindy Hop is about connection, and I don't think any of us have any interest in seeing Lindy Hop go to being about anything else. So I think we're sort of weeding this out, but a big part of the show that we've been passionate about is making a sort of seamless transition from performance practice to community practice. At the end of each show, that's about 70 minutes, we plan to take a little set break and then open the stage up or move to another sort of social space to host a community dance, meaning that people can get up and AL's bands will play a little set, and people can try out their moves, whether or not they're the most experienced Lindy Hoppers in town or they just like the sound of the music and they want a bogey. That still is very important to the sort of mission statement of the show, because the whole idea of presenting dance in this way is to say, great, we just danced and you'd enjoyed it so much, and now it's your turn to try on this this style of dancing, this way of moving to this music. And so I think we are speaking for people who love social dancing the world over, regardless of style. I think we're all looking forward to seeing when we can return to that. And I actually think in many ways, I always thought the show was going to be cool, but I think this show will have a sort of an added dimension of I don't know, it'll feel so strong and palpable, and it'll feel it's just what you want to do. I've watched a couple of TikTok videos of like kids in Beijing after the quarantine was lifted, just like running through parks and hugging each other, these like little toddlers. And I keep thinking, yeah, that's going to be me at a social dance whenever social dances are back on. I know Avita agrees.
Absolutely. And I also love that it harkens back to what Nathan was saying earlier, that this is just a dance of people's lives. And the way of ending with inviting everybody to come and be together and dance, it reminds the audience that they can too do this. It is not, an elite exclusionary art form. It's something that we're all supposed to be doing together. So we just got to make sure that we're all safe and that it's okay to do that.
And it's interesting, actually, you saying that is ties into Miss Allison's question. Hi, Allison. Asking how my research actually tied into how I see the show and was contributing to the show. And that was one of the biggest touch points for me, was making sure that we did highlight that this is the expression of the lived experiences of these people that first originated this art form and what they hoped people would carry forward with it today. So yeah, exactly. All of us are living a very reserved and suppressed existence right now. And though I can definitely say it's probably nowhere near as stringent or as tumultuous probably as what our elders were going through when they created this dance form. In our own ways, we are all contending with a different reality that's pretty hard for all of us to process. And sometimes the only way for you to process that is to physicalize it. Sometimes the only way to physicalize it is under the guidance of a song that can get you outside of the immediacy of your surroundings and actually allow you to express what's going on within you with another person. So that's why we want to focus so much on the community aspect. Because that is where this great, amazing dancing came from. This is where we all came from. And we want to give something back to the community that inspires us so much to share.
A question from Claire Lorman, and this is for AL specifically. I think this is just nice to touch on really specifically who will be making up the band. We saw a little bit of it in that first Guggenheim clip, but who's going to be up there with you?
Sorry. Ooh, I was muted. Sorry. Well, the people you've seen on the Guggenheim showcase are my rhythm section for the big band. Are Jonathan Thomas on piano, Ian Hutchison on bass, and Eran Fink on drums. The trombonist that you've seen and heard, it was actually very moving for me to see him. His name is Ron Wilkins. He's a master trombonist, musician, vocalist, and he is fighting COVID-19 pretty severely, and he is on his way to beating it completely, and it's amazing. He was under about a month, right? Even probably a little bit over than a month on a ventilator, and he just woke up a few days ago, and he's doing much better. And just seeing him playing, it was a strong experience. So he is supposed to be on the show if he's strong enough, and if not, Mariel Bilstein is going to play trombone with us, and Jordan Pate is going to play tenor saxophone, and we have John Lake playing trumpet, and quite a few other amazing musicians. Sharonee Wade, an amazing vocalist who sang with us on the second album, and I worked with her. We worked together for a couple of good years. Is going to sing with us, and it's a smaller version of my big band. On a normal day when there's no pandemic and we can play together, and the club has a big enough stage, we are usually between 16 to 18 piece band, and for this show we're going to be a condensed version, but still enough to have the big band sound, and to challenge me with orchestrating it in the right way. I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, I think it's so important to really shout out those musicians, and thank you for that update.
Yes.
So this is a fun question from Kathy Bine, asking who your favorite swing dancers are to watch. And I think for people who are tuning in tonight and maybe will come see Swing 2020, I mentioned the documentary on Netflix, Alive and Kicking, but I think there's going to be an appetite for more to see, more to learn. So who are those inspirations for you guys? Anyone?
Oh, there's so many. It's like, where do you start? Because there's the whole category of the greats who are no longer with us, that we study and worship and watch from the old black and white clips. But then there's also incredible talent and teachers who are still with us today, who were, I think, role models for a lot of us. I would say, I'll go ahead and say it for everybody. I mean, of course, Frankie Manning, Norma Miller, Don Hampton and Chester Whitmore, they are people, oh my gosh, wait. And then of course, Sugar Sullivan. I mean, those are, I think, some of the top great role models for our community. But then also I have to shout out and say my teachers and mentors, Ryan Francois and Jenny Thomas, were huge in shaping me, encouraging me, and teaching me and letting me suck for a really long time until I improved.
My favorite dancers to watch are in the video clip I'm going to show. My favorite dancer to watch, that changes from time to time, but all my favorite dancers to watch are from the generation of dancers that were developing the dance in the swing era. And the best footage we have is from the later swing era. And my favorite dancer is usually has changed from time to time, but I just keep coming back around to Leon James. And this is a dancer. This choice is not necessarily straightforward. I've heard some negative things said about Leon James by other dancers who are his contemporaries, and maybe they get on him about being lazy, or maybe there's I didn't know him personally, so maybe the social things I don't know about. But what I like about his dancing is it's satire and minimal effort to produce maximum results. You get the feeling that he's really talking to you. and so I like the subtlety. I think it provides more depth for me than just a straight up on stage show kind of a dancer. But anyway, so I'm gonna roll this, and we're looking at Leon James with the white pocket handkerchief, and then you've got. I'm going to talk about it from the viewer's perspective. On the right is James Blue Outlaw, and on his left is Al Minns, and further left is, I believe, Lee Moats. And then there's a younger man who joins them, should be around 20 years old at this point, is Teddy Brown in the light-colored suit. And this footage is from the Savoy Ballroom, captured by Muradin in the 50s or late 40s. And then and here we can see Leon is just leaving, steps out, and then he walks away. Oh, excuse me, that's Teddy Brown. So he wasn't in the light suit, unless this was filmed at a different time. That's Al Minns. And then there's going to be some partner dancing with Leon James and Esther Washington. And this is, if you quote unquote know Lindy Hop, this is not generally what you would picture. Like if you learned Lindy Hop in a classroom, it wouldn't occur to you to dance this way. This is what the dance is. In all its variety. I think Leon James is good at exemplifying the creativity that is available to, and Esther Washington as well. But in particular, the way he leaves steps out. I always liked the way he leaves steps out. And of course, I watch the men and I watch the leaders because that's the dance role I've done the most.
So I have to.
Go ahead,
I think
please.
Marie Bryant, honestly, is one of my key go-tos when I'm really, really, really trying to encapsulate
Amen.
the energy of Lindy Hop and not just the performative aspects, but really trying to tap into my deeper sense of self, like the way I want to see myself when I'm moving and the way I want what I'm saying and sharing in the world to go forward with as much confidence and panache as possible, because that's how I saw every single step that she took, whether she meant to articulate a rhythm or just emote, just infinite degrees of sass and power. Like Marie Bryant for me is one of my favorite dancers to watch forever and ever.
There's also a particular, I feel a little smug saying this, but when we were casting Swing 2020, it's sort of like people say, okay, you get to have dinner with your favorite 12 dancers in the world, like who's at the table, and that's kind of a hypothetical, and then the cast that we've assembled is essentially that fantasy. I've never played fantasy football, but that fantasy football team that you assemble in your minds. I mean, like the people that I'm sharing this project with on this screen are some of my favorite dancers, and I say that not to suck up to them. It's too late for that. And similarly for everyone in the cast. So I'd say we're kind of in this I'm in this unique position where I would be going to see this show whether or not I was a part of it, because these are some of my favorite dancers of any style and they're all assembled in the same place, and I'm there too. That's pretty cool. So
cool. Well, we're coming up on an hour, so I think we're about out of time. Also, sorry, I got a food delivery a second ago unexpectedly, so I had to just run. That's the world of, you know, Zoom.
Of birthdays, Ross.
Yeah.
That's
Ross's
right. It's
birthday.
Ross's birthday today.
Oh, we won't say any more publicly than we just.
This has been such a great way to spend a birthday, really hang out with 5 wonderful artists and friends. So this has been really interesting. So to wrap us up, I just want to say thank you to the 5 of you for doing this. Thank you to George Mason Center for the Art for this Mason Arts at Home series. I know this is actually the last sort of in the semester, so what a fun way to go out. And this was also brought to you by the Joyce Theater and also the Music Center in Los Angeles. So really great for these 3 institutions to come together to share this work with all of you. We are watching the news obviously every day to see when Swing 2020 can happen safely in New York, but then also on tour to those venues and more. So please just keep an eye out for more information, but we're gonna keep at it. And we can't wait to see you all in a theater and up on stage during the jam, hopefully very soon. So with that, I think we're signing off. Thank you all. Thanks for the questions. Thanks for all the great insight. And stay safe.
Thanks for having us. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Yeah.